Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach,
And I'm Pepper.
and today we're going to be giving our first impressions of Final Girl, which I guess which box do we have? Frightmare on Maple Lane is the box that we used, but I think we have at least a little bit of an idea of how the
Yep, just the
system
core
works.
system, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's kind of I guess a combination, but it's kind of also that specific box as well.
Yes.
And yeah, so this was one that I initially got and played a couple times, but that's been a while ago.
Probably shocking to our die-hard fans.
Which
who
is
know-
shocking because I am not the solo gamer.
Yes, I am much more the solo gamer, and I think as well probably this theme would be more enticing to me as well. Just kind of like a cinematic horror movie type theme.
Mm-hmm.
A little more interesting to me.
Yeah, and I thought you'd like it, so I thought it's worth giving it a try for me. And then if I didn't like it, I was like, these are two things that go right down Pepper's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So, and I tried it, and then just recently, you got the chance to give it a couple of plays, and yeah, with some help from me, obviously, from all my knowledge on the game, and yeah, I would say that, yeah, it's a solo-only game, so you have to want that. That's probably the biggest thing about it.
Yep.
And I guess, do you think thematically, does it actually feel like a horror movie Final Girl situation?
I feel, so yeah, you have a bunch of nobodies, side characters that get killed throughout the game, or else you can kind of save them and rescue them and gain bonuses because of that. But otherwise, it does supposed to come down to you and the big bad battling it out at the end. And I feel that because, like maybe mechanics, I don't know if it like really feels that way. I think it does enough. But I think because it is so punishing, at least in my couple plays, it really does feel like you are struggling to survive.
Yeah, I would agree. I remember the couple times I played it. Just it was rough. And I don't know if it's this set. If you are a hardcore Final Girl fan, let us know if this is maybe not the set that you would suggest starting with. Because
this one
it felt tough.
It's kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street type theme, and that there's a time when you're awake and a time when you're asleep, and I think that that's probably adding just another layer where if you know the core game, you can do this and try to figure out kind of when you want to be awake, when you want to be asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of a next level thing. So we started out at a very, very difficult set, I am sure.
Yes, so don't tell us in the comments below. That is by far the easiest set or something like that. But yeah, like you said, the game is really driven by cards that you kind of buy with the same points that you're using to use time. It's kind of action points. It's time, technically. And you'll also be rolling some dice for... you'll be doing kind of dice checks to see how many successes you get. And based on that, you'll look at the card that you played, and you'll get some sort of results. And some of those may use your time. Otherwise, you can buy your cards with them. And you can utilize those to kind of move around the map. You can utilize them to, attack. You can use some of your cards to defend things. And then kind of in this one specifically, you're trying to convince people to let you in their houses, which I think was a card specifically for this one. I don't think that's always in the game. So in order to help some of the people, you may have to first convince them to let you in the house. You can't just walk in there. And then walking around the board can even be very difficult. Yeah,
because the dice checks, they're not easy.
No.
They're not easy because I think is it 2 automatic 6? Is it 2, 2, and 2? Is it an even split?
I think so.
I think, it's 1 through 6. So a 1 and a 2 are just blank, nothing towards your success. A 3 and a 4 each can be turned into a success if you discard 2 of your action cards, which that's a lot of your action cards. So if you roll 2 3s and you need 2 successes, that's going to drain pretty much the rest of your hand.
Right.
So you don't want to do that. But
If you can
sometimes
help
you
it.
really, really have to, because,
Right.
I mean, you can get up to, I guess you can get quite a few successes, but you need like 1, 2, or 3. They're very hard to come by, and it might be worth it to spend those and sacrifice extra actions that round. And then the 5 and 6 are just automatic success. Whenever you can hit those, it feels great, but it feels horrible when you hit 1 and 2, and it's like, there's nothing I can do about this. I can't. If you don't have an ability to re-roll, if you don't have...
There are
you
luckily
can't pay
some
those
cards to help with
Yes,
that.
thankfully. But yeah, it's very tough. I discovered very early on, okay, this is not going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be tough, and going to fail a lot and lose time, and the villain's going to be more powerful, and...
The villain's not going to stop trying to kill people.
No,
unfortunately.
No. And he gets so freaking powerful, man.
So quickly.
Although the first game I played, we started out
was
with
a little...
the worst events possible. That just kind of threw people were in a house. It started the house on fire. It threw more people into the house, and they died. And that just immediately, and just fueled their whatever bloodlust track, whatever, and it just bumped their movement, bumped their attack value, which. So I lost the first game, but had to come back and did end up barely winning it, and it did feel very earned in that. And I love that the villains, kind of like as they upgrade, they reveal additional cards, and those are a few to choose from for like each of the 2 that you do there. So the first game, I forget what the ability was on that first ability, but in the second game, like it meant when I killed him, I would like reveal like 3 tokens, and then which could be up to 3 health, and then he will respawn with that much health, and I would have to then deal that, which that's already a mechanic in the game, is when you or the villain dies, you have this last 1 health token, and you flip it, and I think there's maybe 9 tokens. There's 1 with 1 heart, 1 with 2 hearts, 1 with 3 hearts. If you have one of those, you're not dead. And you're in the finale, and you get that much health and just a little more time to possibly take down the villain. And I just love that is a mechanism in the game. It feels so cinematic.
It does.
It just creates a moment, and it hasn't gone too against me in the games that I played. So if it was just like, oh, you play it a bunch of times and it's always nothing and you just die, maybe it wouldn't feel that exciting, but in my plays it did work out, and I liked it quite a bit.
Right, yeah. And the one ability you had, because the Final Girls, if you save so many people, they'll upgrade to have a special ability, and one of them did allow you to switch out, which you initially, I looked at it because I was having him play or whatever, and in your first game, and actually the villain had the 3 heart, and you had a 0 heart, and I knew, I'm like, this is not probably going to go well, but then you could swap it. At the time, we hadn't looked at what the heart ones were, and I couldn't remember from my plays. But then you were able to, your ability allowed you to kind of swap one if you wanted. You got to look at it and then swap if you wanted. And the first one you picked up was a 2, which you didn't realize that at the time probably that was the second best possible chip, but really, not knowing what the villain had, that was the best chip you could have pulled.
Chip, yes.
So, at least you ended up having that, but it didn't come down to the villain having to reveal his, so you never did find out that he had 3. So, but that is a very thematic thing where it's like, in the movies where they kill the villain and then, oh wait, where did he go?
It's like his body isn't there.
They should remember to be playing Final Girl and flip the token before just leaving him alone. But it's a really, really cool mechanism, and I like the fact that out of the cards that you can buy with your time, there's also a handful of cards that you start with. I don't remember how many it is, but their cost is 0. And there's like a cooldown on cards, so you'll at least like every other turn at a minimum, if not, depending on how you use the cards, you'll always be able to take those 0 value cards back to your hand without having to pay for them. So typically that can help.
It's very, very much needed, because as you're kind of going through the rules, I'm like, wait, so when do I get these cards back to my hand? It's like, no, they go into the market. I'm like, what? They go into the market? But then it's like, oh, they're free cost. So every other turn, if you are just using all of those 0s on the same turn, you will get them all back. Not that turn, because you spend them, they go aside, you buy more cards for the next round, and then those zeros go back into the market, which I really like the market system and the cards and kind of managing your time. And some of them are so expensive, but they just are like, you really need that. You really need a defensive card or something like that. Luckily, the dice manipulation ones are pretty cheap, so you can get those, which was very, very helpful.
Yes.
And I just think there's a lot of great decisions to be made of what cards you pick up and how you do spend those cards possibly to get successes on those dice. Whether to maybe you have an all right success and maybe you want to bump it up, but that's going to cost you cards, which you could save for another turn or maybe use them this turn, but are they that useful? Really? I just found it to be very intriguing card system when I wasn't really going into this knowing anything about the mechanics, just theme. I'm glad they had something interesting.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
number rating here. I'd heard a lot of hype about it from Mike DeLisio. I think he really loves this series of games. He's a big solo gamer, but he also likes like a lot of Garfield games, solo modes, and I'm like, those are not as
Interesting to you?
Yeah, not as interesting, not as exciting and cinematic. Feeling like fighting a villain type thing, which
Right.
I usually enjoy in my solo games. So I was wondering how this would feel, but like we said, I think the theme really does come through. So I think I'm gonna give this, but it is really tough.
It is.
So I'm like, if it's very devastating, I don't know if it's gonna be able to be up in like the 9s for me. So right now, I'm gonna give this an 8.75.
Ooh. So yeah, right up there for you. I think, yeah, because of, even though I didn't play those last couple games, I know in my games too, the dice, I was just not rolling well at all. And obviously that's 2 gameplays, and I don't know, I could have played it, 8 more times and not, and won, I don't know if it's 50%, if it's 40%, I don't know what it would be. Yeah, I think it's probably at like a 7 to 7.5 for me. It's just tough already because it's a solo game, which I don't usually play. And then, yeah, just being maybe a little bit too tough. And there are definitely the moments, which is good, when you do, like you said, roll those successes and then you do, do a big hit on them or something. But I guess when I sometimes think of like a dice combat type system, I think of like Cthulhu Death May Die, and some of that feels a lot more enjoyable. Like I'm doing a lot of damage, whereas this just feels like it's still, even when you do hit those big ones, it still feels kind of grindy. Like, okay, I did do a big hit, but I got to keep going. That's not he's not dead yet.
Yeah, because it's like he's got like 9 health, and he just took 2 away. It's like that card to attack him costs like 4 time, which is a lot to spend to save and not using your turn and spend for that. That's a lot, and now that card is used. It goes over to the market, and you're gonna have to go buy it again to possibly use it. And if it wasn't a success, you got absolutely nothing, and you just wasted buying that whole card. So there's absolutely devastating rolls in this one as well. But I have enough solo games where they are pretty, not easy, but feel like a lot more forgiving than this one. So for me, who enjoys a bunch of solo games, I think it's nice to have one that can be a little more punishing. I think that's all right to have that in the collection, where others who maybe don't play that many solo games, for this to be their only one, probably go for something a little more forgiving, unless you do really want a challenge.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. At least this one has felt like it. Can't speak for all the boxes. There's like 500 now. So maybe some of those are a little bit easier. Maybe this is the easiest one, and it only gets harder. I don't know. Yeah, let us know in the comments below if you've played a lot of Final Girl, what your thoughts are on it. If this one is the toughest one, please tell us it is, because then Pepper can feel really good about his win. Like you tell him, oh, I only won like 1 out of 20 times, and he can feel really good. But otherwise, we should have an unboxing video of this going up alongside this. And it is a very interesting unboxing video. I guess I don't know, I don't remember how it was edited. It's one that was unboxed a decent while ago, so I don't remember. But these boxes are interesting as well. Very many magnets.
Yeah, it's like a magnet.
I may have struggled to get these open initially.
And it's another magnet on the other side. It's like it opens up here for components, opens up here for components. It's hard to even pick them up without it falling open.
Yes.
Which I discovered initially when I immediately grabbed it. I'm like, okay, I remember now. He mentioned something about a weird box.
It was very weird because, yeah, in the unboxing, I was like, it really seems like there should be something here. And I'm looking, I'm like, I don't know how to get this, but I did not realize the other side was also a magnet. So I look like a fool. So
have some fun and go watch that.
Yes, go give me a hard time. But otherwise, I hope to see you on that video. And as always, don't forget to
keep on nibbling
on our content.